Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and of course, continuing on, reviewing Halloweenish materials on the weekdays, and yes, the next classic Universal monster film that I'm reviewing, and a follow-up to the first two that I reviewed, and that's what I saw on IMDb and such. Well, I'm pretty sure because, well, I mean, The Mummy came after, say, Dracula and Frankenstein, but, you know, this is the one I'm doing next. And as I teased in the last review video, pointing this guy out, and yeah, because you read the title, and hope you appreciate the thumbnail for my review of this one classic Universal monster film. Just for the thumbnail, okay? Because yeah, just for that, wasn't gonna do that. Just, you get my point. So, and for the fun of it, you know, you just sometimes, you know, always be creative with thumbnails and what you're doing. But anyways, so that's right, guys. I am finally reviewing from 1933 that was also directed by James Whale, who previously brought us Frankenstein, and this time, what he brought to us, yeah, because, yep, from 1933, this is The Invisible Man. Yes, 1933's The Invisible Man. Yeah, because I'm glad to have also finally have seen this, and I, of course, was familiar with The Invisible Man and the image of the character, and I'd only seen a few bits and pieces, especially one of the famous scenes of this movie where he reveals himself, which, when I get to that, yeah, now that I've seen it fully, because, kind of not what I was expecting, especially that goes for the titled character himself. What the character is like, and what goes on with him and in his head, just, yeah, the insanity and madness that this scientist goes through, and because he had turned invisible, and throughout the film, him trying to find a cure, an experiment and such, you know, to create and to be visible, uninvisible, yeah, to be visible and to be seen, and, you know, he would be, with his love interest once again, etc. Yeah. And just how the movie ends, like, geez, like, that I kind of did not see coming, but, you know, yeah. And, you know, since this came out in 1933, it's still amazing to this day, and how back then they achieved and was able to do those special effects, you know, for The Invisible Man that, yeah, were kind of new and stuff like that. You know, especially visual effects back then, like from, say, King Kong and, you know, a couple of others. Just, yeah, at that time, just amazing and mind-blowing, and still to this day, because how they accomplished those effects all those years ago. It's amazing. And, well, how those movies, including The Invisible Man, how they made film history, and especially when it came to the visual effects. Yeah. The Invisible Man from 1933, I really enjoyed this. This did not disappoint me, of course. Like, pretty much, yeah, and that goes for all the other classic Universal monster films. And you would know, even before you see any of the classic Universal monster films, you would be aware and you would know and sense that these are fantastic classics, masterpieces, without a doubt. It's just amazing. Yeah. So again, overall, I really enjoyed The Invisible Man from 1933. Okay, so enough said. As always, read the description / the story. While researching a new drug, Dr. Jack Griffin stumbles on a potion that can make him invisible when he reveals his new ability to his old mentor and his fiancée. Yeah, that's right, fiancée. It's clear that a side effect of the potion is insanity. Jack goes on a violent rampage, and the police struggle to hunt him down, unable to see their target, while his mentor and former partner desperately tried to devise a plan to capture him. Okay, so a little bit of background before I get into the movie itself, and as I sometimes do, talking about backgrounds. The Invisible Man being another adaptation that Universal had done, and The Invisible Man. It is based off of a book, of course, from a famous book/novel writer, H.G. Wells. I'm sure some of you might be familiar with that name and other books/novels that he had written, and which they would also be turned into movies, like, say, The Time Machine, and most notably, The War of the Worlds. I think it's just War of the Worlds, no "the" at the beginning of the title, but you know. Even before they got turned into movies, The Invisible Man was one of the first. However, before The Invisible Man, there was another movie adaptation of one of H.G. Wells' other books. If I remember to do so, I'll put the name of that in a text, And H.G. Wells was not impressed with the results. And when it came to The Invisible Man, Carl, what's his last name, one of the founders of Universal, convinced and assured, I assume, H.G. Wells on, having his other book, The Invisible Man, be turned into a movie. And when it came to whom would direct this, James Whale was picked to helm this, and after, the success of Frankenstein, and James Whale was not interested in doing another Frankenstein movie at the time, no sequel and so on. He was interested in, when he was approached and attached, to do this, and as far as I remember and recall, and doing some research, James Whale picked whom would play the titled character and the Doctor, Dr. Jack Griffin, a.k.a. The Invisible Man, and that, of course, being the late Claude Rains. I think I've got his last name right, pretty much. And everybody just said, no, you don't cast him, but James, he insisted, and he got what he wanted, and thus Claude Rains was chosen to play the titled character / the Doctor. Because, basically, it's about, say, Claude's face, and I don't know, because if you know about this, but I think we'd all be glad that, it was Claude Rains that was the one that would get to play the titled character, because what he brings to the performance of Dr. Jack Griffin, a.k.a. The Invisible Man, throughout the whole movie, we never see his face, but just his voice. And, clearly, I were to assume that Claude Rains was the body performance of the Invisible Man, because, we all know the iconic look of the Invisible Man with the bandages around his head, the goggles, or whether if it's goggles or glasses, and the wardrobe that he has on. Surely that was Claude. And just everything that Claude did, just fantastic. And by the way, because there's not that much music, as I recall. But I mean, from, say, the opening credits and at the end of the movie. But yeah, there's a little bit of music in this, as far as I recall. But yeah, and even after doing The Invisible Man, the other films that James Whale would find himself doing / directing, one of them, of course, being another Frankenstein movie, that, of course, being Bride of Frankenstein. I'm pretty sure, because he was convinced to direct that and stuff like that, when at first, and as I said, he was not interested in doing a Frankenstein sequel, so yeah. But yeah, just what James Whale brought, with the direction of The Invisible Man, just fantastic. James Whale, a famous and legendary director, and I'm sure some of you guys know that, there's a biopic about James Whale, Sir Ian McKellen portraying James Whale, and I even watched a little bit of the behind the scenes, the making of The Invisible Man, of the Blu-ray copy I have, and Ian McKellen is in the making of The Invisible Man, and with a little bit of a mentioning of the biopic and such, of James Whale. That's nice, so. Alright, but with that being said, now getting into the film itself, because, our main character, Jack Griffin, Dr. Jack Griffin, I should say, again, being played by Claude Rains. Well, because, on a snowy blizzard night, we see the Doctor approaching at a bar named Lion's Heads. Yeah, that sounds about right. And seeking shelter and wanting a rented room and such with a fireplace. And those that run the Lion's Head are Mr. and Mrs. Hall, Jenny Hall being played by the late Una O'Connor, and her husband, Herbert Hall, being played by the late Forrester Harvey. So they run this bar, and also another, worker in the bar is Millie, being played by the late Meryl Tottenham, I think I'm saying that right. Yeah, because again, he is seeking shelter and a room with a fireplace, and thus, well, he can set up his experiments, and he prefers to be alone. And what would come next, which wouldn't be that long. And, well, keep in mind, because The Invisible Man, like all the other classic Universal monster films, this not being that long of a movie, this being like 1 hour and 11 minutes. Jeez. Well, again, keep in mind, because how certain movies, how long they were back then and how they were done. And that goes for the Universal monster films. So, again, he gets a room, setting up his experiments, but aside from that, because the other main characters, I almost forgot that, she was the Doctor's fiance, but yeah. Flora Cranley, Dr. Jeff Griffin's fiance, being played by the late Gloria Stewart. And as of now, I'm pretty sure people would remember her best for this, but also, and most notably, she'd be best known as Old Rose Dawson, as she now went by in James Cameron's Titanic. Yeah. Oscar-nominated performance, by the way. Yeah, she got Oscar-nominated for that. So I think, for some people, they would remember her best for this and Titanic. Because, come on, The Invisible Man, this is The Invisible Man we're talking about. So, one of the classic Universal monster films. Anyways, she is worried sick to death about her lover / fiance, and her father, Flora's father, Flora, gotta slow down, Flora's father, Dr. Cranley, being played by the late Henry Travers, at times, trying to, calm her daughter down and assuring her and stuff like that. And also, another doctor in this movie, Dr. Arthur Kemp, being played by the late William Harrigan. Yeah, I got that right. They are aware of what's going on with Dr. Jack Griffin, and, they are upset about him, and, hopefully they'll hear from him soon, but, Flora especially, she's the most upset. And back at the Lion's Head, because, Dr. Jack Griffin, trying to proceed on with his experiment, and in order to be uninvisible, but with him getting interrupted and him preferring to be left alone, but nobody at that bar leaves him alone, especially Jenny Hall giving him his lunch and stuff like that, and he is, why would he turn down, food and such? He needs to have something to eat, right? But he refuses, and, slamming the door on her, and, it caused her to drop the tray and such, and Jenny Hall, I've got to say, boy, she can be a handful. Not entirely in this movie, but yeah, thank goodness for that. But just, her overreacting and just screaming, almost at the top of her lungs, I tell you. And after that, because, Jack Griffin losing his temper and, causing her to drop that tray, delicate china and stuff like that, she's had it, and, she has her husband, get Jack Griffin out of that room and out of the bar and such. She wants him out, really. And even when Herbert Hall confronts Jack Griffin, he's not going anywhere, and he prefers to be left alone, and if only they left him alone. Herbert just, demanding that, he pay and such, but, the money hasn't arrived yet, according to Jack, and, according to Herbert, that's what he said last month, and it just gets out of hand, and, well, Jack Griffin forcing Herbert out of the room by smashing him with a book, and causing Herbert to, tumble down the stairs, and, yeah, and that's when, Jenny and everybody at the bar, they call up the Constable Jeffers. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. And Constable Jeffers being played by the late E.E. Clive. Yeah. And that's one of the famous scenes in this film, and as I mentioned, where, yeah, Constable and the other people in the bar and such, the customers, right behind Constable, confronting the doctor and, telling him to get out, or, he'll be taken in, and the doctor just telling them and setting them straight that, you should have left me alone, and just, I'll show you who I really am. And thus he reveals who he is. And, even though we saw a glimpse of it when Jenny just about saw what he is, and, well, because his mouth being invisible, because when he was eating. So we got a little bit of that early on, but this is where we fully see that he is invisible, just taking off the nose piece and the bandages, and, here's a souvenir for you, and one for you, I'll show you who I am, just that laugh, I tell you, because that was a pretty good laugh right there, and just, the Constable's comment, on what he and the others are seeing, like, look at that, he's all eaten away, and thus, they get out of there, they flee, but they're not done quite yet. Because a little later, and when they confront him again, and, well, because, the doctor / the Invisible Man, taking off his wardrobe and only having a white shirt on, and having them chase him around, and it just, yeah, it gets intense, and they're no match for him for now, and them just scattering and fleeing, and then the Invisible Man causing chaos out in the village, riding a bike and causing people to trip and so on, and just, yeah, chaos. And coming back to the other doctors, Dr. Kemp and Dr. Cranley, well, they have a bit of a conversation, scientific talk and stuff like that, and, they notice and see that a lot of instruments and tools and such that Dr. Jack took with him, and the mentioning of Monocaine, and what Monocaine is, as Dr. Kemp asks, and the other doctor, he knows, because it's this drug, and it had to do with Dr. Griffin turning invisible, but with Monocaine and with other chemicals, and because this caused him to turn invisible, well, having a side effect on him, and as I read in the description / the story, causing him to go delusional, mad, and wanting power and stuff like that. Yeah, it's crazy. And to speed things up, because, well, the locals and the constable, they phone up the police station, and, the chief detective, being played by the late Dudley Diggs, he thinks it's bullcrap, and, he doesn't believe, and even when, it's not just the constable, but others that are saying this, and, yeah, because still, yeah, he doesn't believe in this, and even at one point, the Invisible Man, Dr. Jack Griffin, he actually makes his way to Dr. Kemp's house, finding a place to stay, and confronting Dr. Kemp, and telling him, his side of the story, and, through 1,000 scientific failures and such, up until when he went to that bar, and the next experiment that he was doing, he was this close to succeeding on not being invisible anymore. But if only the people at the bar had left him alone, not have him go crazy and such, he would have succeeded. He would have been this close, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to. And then he starts talking crazy things on killing people, and just, yeah, because with what the Manocaine and all that made him invisible, what it's doing to his head. Just, yeah. And Dr. Kemp knows, and he can tell that, he's gone crazy. And Griffin, aka the Invisible Man, having Dr. Kemp being his partner, having Kemp help him out with what he's doing currently, and in order to proceed, and so on. So yeah, and with having new wardrobe being put on him, new, robe and bandages and some gloves and a pair of glasses, and that being one of the iconic looks for the Invisible Man. That and his first appearance with the wardrobe he had on and with the goggles. Those being his two iconic appearances and looks. Even like on my shirt, on my shirt, he is wearing the goggles. All right, anyways, so then, and to speed things up because, well, one sequence where, because after Dr. Jack Griffin, aka the Invisible Man, has settled down in Kemp's house and with new wardrobe and such, well, they actually, and with, Kemp's help, driving where Griffin is supposed to go, going back to the Lion's Head to retrieve the stuff that he left behind in the room that he was staying in. And when we come back to the Lion's Head, we see that the chief detective, meeting with all the victims and even the constable and so on about, the sightings of this Invisible Man, which he still thinks it's bullcrap, and addressing to them and stating to them that they'll become a huge laughing stock and such, and the chief detective was about to sign some papers, and well, right before that, because when Dr. Griffin and Dr. Kemp arrive, Griffin's sneaking his way in. Easy for him, because he's invisible, and just passing by, he opened a door. A few noticed that the door was open, and even when they heard some commotion outside, but Jenny knew that it was a couple of boys that were messing around and so on, and just shooing them off. And then, Griffin inside of the room that he stayed in, retrieving his items and some books, and having Kemp wait out right where the window is and dropping the books to him. But Griffin, he's not done quite yet, because he starts another ruckus, if I'm saying that right, chaos, basically. He starts another chaos moment where, the chief detective, again, about to sign the papers, using ink on a feather, but he's not able to dip it in the ink because the ink is moving, and, well, revealing to the chief detective, you call this a hoax, and just, confronting the chief detective, and getting everybody scared and running out of the bar, and he then starts to attack the chief detective by strangling him, and, slamming like a chair or something on top of him, and basically he killed the chief detective. And as was mentioned earlier, that, his thoughts and what he was going to do, just, killing and so on. Jeez. And how crazy he's become by this point, and what that drug did to him. Not just having him be invisible, but just what goes on in his brain. But, so they do get out of there, of course, and, well, it's official, and the word is spread, on the radio and on newspapers that, yeah, there is an Invisible Man, and informing everybody to take precaution, lock their doors, not go out, and stuff like that. And even a little bit of a montage where later on in the film we see that the Invisible Man is causing more chaos. Attacking some people, causing them to fall, or, taking, like, their hats or whatever. Even, like, one moment at a bank where he takes some money and, free money, a gift from the Invisible Man. And he even, at a train station, like where the points can be switched, signalman, knocks out the signalman, and he changes the points, and he causes an incoming train to go over, a cliff and such, with live people you can hear the screams. And I'll give that shot with the train going down a cliff, that was practical, obviously, and because this is 1933, that being a practical model train, that was a cool shot, but at the same time, in the film itself, it's crazy. Man, because how far those drugs and such how it's affected Griffin. It's insane. And then a little later on, because Dr. Cranley is informed by Kemp that Griffin is present in his place. Even like a few attempts, because how scared and worried Kemp was, over Griffin, attempting to try to call the police. He didn't manage to do so at first. But I think like at a second time and later on, yeah, because he did. Even like other like people were phoning in, like claiming that they've seen the Invisible Man and he's nearby and such. So again, Cranley is informed that Griffin is there, and then, well, Cranley's daughter / the fiance of Jack Griffin, Flora, also finds out that her fiance is there, and she insists on going to Kemp's and, reuniting with her lover. And, eventually, we see that they do arrive, and, Griffin is great is glad, I should say, glad to see that, they've come, and especially his fiance, and him getting all dressed up a bit, and to meet with his fiance. And the moment that Flora and Griffin have, and Griffin going on about, power, and just, with the killings and just so on, what the drugs have done to him, this insane talk that he's having. And, well, Flora, like, with how much she loves him, just, she wants there to be something done with her fiance to help him. And, well, that goes for Kemp and Cranley. They just, they just want him to be normal, and they want to help him and no longer be invisible. But sadly, they don't succeed. But not there quite yet, because of what, unfortunately happens to Dr. Jack Griffin, aka the Invisible Man. And then at one point, the police start showing up, and yeah, this is where the police and everybody really take action, and some of the other characters, like two inspectors, Inspector Bird being played by Harry Stubbs, Inspector Lane being played by Donald Stewart, because them being involved, of course, and some other cast of characters, the rest of them being uncredited, and because, this being back in the 1930s, how most movies didn't credit that many people. So, Detective Thompson being played by Robert Adair, a radio announcer, just by the voice, was Edgar Barrier, and Village Playing Darts was Ted Billings, bicycle owner, because, Griffin taking a bicycle and riding it, that was, the bicycle owner was played by Walter Brennan, and a farmer being played by Robert Brower, who we see almost at the end of the movie, until I get there. And also Mary Purdy being played by Mae Bruce, townswoman at pub being played by Rita Carlisle, informer suggesting ink, played by John Carradine. How some characters are credited, like, and what they specifically do. I love that. And a villager being played by D.R.C. Corrigan, if I'm getting that right. So just to name off the other cast members that are uncredited, just why not, as I like to do sometimes. So again, the police and the detectives, them taking action once and for all in order to stop and take down the Invisible Man and how dangerous he is. And, from what I can tell, Jack Griffin, technically, being the antagonist of this film, but it's because of the drugs, and with the Manocaine, what happened to him, what it did to his brain and such, aside from being invisible, yeah. And also, it is nice to see that, you know, there's a part of Jack Griffin still that's good. His love for his fiance, yeah, still there, you know, and promising Flora that they will be reunited once and for all until this has been cleared up and, you know, he has been, you know, turned back, not invisible anymore. Yeah. So again, with the police on Griffin's tail, like, their attempts to stop and take down Griffin don't succeed at first. Like, they have Kemp's house surrounded. All of them take hands and, you know, getting close to the house, and even at one point, because when Griffin found out on what Kemp did, well, he felt betrayed, and he threatened Kemp that by tomorrow at 10 in the evening, 10 p.m., he would kill him. He threatened Kemp that he was going to kill him. And Kemp freaking out and informing the police on this, the detectives, and just, yeah. And even when they assured Kemp that he will be under protection and such. Well, not for long, but yeah, again, their attempts to try and capture and take down Griffin do not go well at first. Like, one of their traps is a giant net, and they use, like, some oil or whatever it was, you know, and, yeah, just, they are, you know, they're no match for Griffin. You know, he's unstoppable for now. And, yeah, to go ahead and come up to this and still speed things up because, well, should have known that it was going to happen, because at one point we see that Kemp, he had been tied up, and you know, he was in the car with Dr. Griffin, and Dr. Griffin was not joking around, because, you know, after they take a little drive, Griffin being behind the wheel, should have known that would happen at any point. We would see him behind the wheel. Nobody, like, someone invisible and driving the car, and that, of course, being Griffin. Nice to see. And, well, again, as I said, Kemp being tied up, and, well, the final words that Griffin says to Kemp, and, well, having the car, you know, drive itself and making its way down a cliff, and, yep, because, again, he wasn't joking, he was serious, you know, warning Kemp that he would kill him, and he did so. And, well, with the car going down a cliff, and it catches fire, and it explodes, and, yeah, sadly, Kemp meets his demise. Yeah. But, yeah, so, but, yeah, with the police still trying to hunt down and take down the Invisible Man once and for all, and they have no idea at first who the Invisible Man is. And when, you know, Kemp does reveal, he did reveal early on that it is Dr. Jack Griffin. Well, with the Invisible Man roaming around, we do see at one point, and yeah, that, you know, many times in this movie where it's winter, and, well, yeah, because obviously when the time and setting of this movie, like, overall, when this movie takes place, it's during the winter time. So, you know, one evening when it's winter, Griffin stays at a barn. And then, well, because the farmer, as I mentioned, happened to discover and see that the Invisible Man is present in his barn. And he informed the police, and the police showing up, and, well, what they do is, you know, just by burning the barn that Griffin is staying in, and, well, Griffin getting out of there, and with the barn being burned down, and they can see his footsteps, you know, his footprints, I should say, footprints in the snow, and that's when one of them shoots him. Literally, he gets shot, and he collapses. They finally got the Invisible Man. And then one of the last scene, I should say, not one of them, the last scene, we see in a hospital, and sadly, Griffin's fiance and Dr. Cranley, they are informed that he's not going to make it, and thus Flora, right by her fiance's, you know, bedside, and, you know, the last bit of dialogue that Griffin says, and when he dies, well, he starts to be uninvisible. We actually, after all this time, and at the very end of the movie, we finally see Claude Rains on screen as Dr. Jack Griffin. Yeah, right after he dies, and that being the last shot of the movie. And yeah, just the visual effects, like we see the skull, and then we see his human flesh, and just, fantastic. And yeah, just like, the visual effects in this movie, just fantastic, including one in particular where, when Jack Griffin is preparing to get ready for bed, and this was right when, the news broke and everybody taking precaution, locking up their doors and windows. Right before that, because we see Dr. Jack Griffin getting ready for bed, taking off his bandages and such, right at a mirror, and apparently that was the most difficult effect shot done. But hey, it turned out to be a great visual effect shot. Just, all of that stuff put together, from shooting just the mirror itself with, Claude Rains and his reflection in the mirror, all of that stuff put together, it turned out to be, pardon my French, but it's true, one hell of a fantastic visual effect shot. Yeah, and the same goes for when he sadly dies and how, we see that he starts to become uninvisible. Just fantastic. In 1933, they succeeded on how the visual effects turned out, and, with the Invisible Man, the titled character, yeah. And, and just, again, with the last scene, when he dies and we see him, yeah, and just, what a way to end off the movie. Yeah, literally. And, well, because movies back then and some of the classic Universal monster movies, you just got to keep in mind that's how most of them were done, and just, yeah, how they turned out. And the end credits showing just the cast, and, and something about, and as I recall, there was something with Claude Rains and his credit as Dr. Jack Griffin, a.k.a. the Invisible Man. How it was at the beginning and at the end of the movie. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, so yeah, because I recall, yeah. But just, again, what a heck of a way to end off the film right there. The Invisible Man, it's no disappointment, and that goes for me, because yeah, it did not disappoint for me. Another great, fantastic, classic Universal monster film right there. The story was really good, and how it was adapted from a book/a novel and brought to the big screen, and with James Whale directing it, and with its cast, and yeah, the cast was great, and whom plays the titled character, the chilling moments, and the intenseful stuff, the visual effects, and with the little bit of music that we have in this, just everything about the Invisible Man did not disappoint. It was really good, from beginning to end. No disappointment at all. And I'm giving The Invisible Man, well, it's obvious, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for The Invisible Man. And what about you guys? What did you think of The Invisible Man itself? Is it one of your favorite classic Universal monster films? What are some of your favorite moments and dialogue? And, what your first reaction was the first time you watched this, and with the visual effects and how they were done back in the 1930s. And were you shocked and getting intense, oh my gosh, with what goes on in this movie, and with the movie's ending? Yeah, just overall, what do you think of the film itself? And if by any chance any of you had read the original book/novel, and that goes for any other books where they were adapted into movies, that of course being the classic Universal monsters. Just again, what do you think of the movie itself? And with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of 1933's Invisible Man. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video /review. And of course, continuing on, reviewing Halloweenish films on the weekdays, and yep, the next/last classic Universal monster film that I'll be reviewing, well, once again, I'll just show what it is that's on my shirt. Let me pull that up. Can you see? Yeah, that's next. Stay tuned for that later tonight. Take care and peace out. I just had to end it off with his laugh because again, it's so good.